My name is Joe Williver, and hopefully you can see me here. And I'm a product manager with PeopleSoft, and today we're going to talk about Page and Field Configurator. Also with me is Kelly Mills.
Hi, everybody.
And Kelly's going to is a director for product development. He's going to manage a chat for us. All right. All right, so we'll have to move a little bit more quickly here today. All right, need to show you a quick, well, let's see here. Quick on the safe harbors. You've probably seen this at this point, at some point today already. We are going to have a little bit of discussion on the futures towards the end of the presentation. Real quick look at the agenda. Most of today is going to be a demo, and we're going to look at how you apply multiple sequences, so multiple configurations to what the user sees and experiences. We're going to touch on data masking too, which is new functionality released this year in HCM and financials as well. And then a quick overview of the roadmap, and then hopefully some time for Q&A at the end. I think we'll still have a good amount of time for Q&A, and that's really one of the main goals of this session here.
And if you folks have questions, please put it in the Q&A tab. That will help us run this a lot smoother. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Kelly. Okay, so these are all the things that the Page and Field Configurator can do for you. The tool's been around for a few years now, and it really started off as a tool to help you take care of those very common customizations that you have in your organization. So changing labels, everybody's done this, hiding fields, etc., disabling entry, requiring entry. Those types of things have been around for quite a while. We've also added the masking capability. From a tools perspective, you should be on 85602 or higher, and the masking functionality actually requires 85711. Okay, we do want to take a couple of polling questions. Kelly, can you release this poll? So throughout really the life of Page and Field Configurator, we've gotten an understanding that organizations maintain PFC, and we'll just call it PFC today, by either the functional staff, the technical staff, or a combination of both. So we're interested in understanding in your organization who actually maintains the Page and Field Configurator tool. So Kelly, I'm not able to see the actual poll results, so you can tell me when it's time to proceed as responses are coming through. Kelly,
can
you
everybody
there?
see? Yeah, I'm here. Can everybody see the poll?
All right. The tool was actually developed for the functional staffs, and about 50% of the organizations, it is a higher level functional person that maintains the tool. Other organizations have really kept it within the IT or technical staff as well. All right.
Yeah, Joe, why don't you keep moving? I'm not seeing results come in yet.
Okay.
So keep going, and then I will hopefully not rudely interrupt once I get things.
Okay. All right. Quick overview of what it takes to actually create a configuration. So this is component based, and you'll see plenty of this today. You select the component, and then we can identify criteria. So this would be field based criteria. So attributes that are available on the page. Then we select the fields that are going to be changed. So which attributes on the field, which fields on the page will have a label change, which ones will be disabled, etc. There's also criteria for roles and user IDs. That's optional, but it's there. And then we apply the configuration, which actually creates the event mapping, which really makes all of this work. Okay, why don't we skip this? Okay.
I got the results if you want. 18% functional, 46% technical, 29% both, and 7% unsure.
Okay, great.
I'm going to end the poll.
Okay. Let's skip poll question 2, just for time's sake today.
Okay.
All right, now we're gonna walk through a demo here. And typically we like to demo this live, but we were seeing some delay with the live demos and what you would see online. So actually I recorded this quick demo this morning. Kelly, can you see the Oracle login now?
I can, Joe.
Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is really show how the use of multiple sequences within a configuration can be used to change the behavior of the page. So a couple of users that we're going to use for this demonstration. The first one is M. Young. So we'll go ahead and I signed in as M. Young, as you'll see here. And M. Young is responsible for maintaining project information and particular information within the project. Oh boy. Hold on, let me restart this. Sorry. Okay, back on the sign in. All right, so to explain the use case here, it's in the financials area. We have a project component that has lots of attributes on it, including start dates, end dates. The first thing we're going to do is open up the component and look at what it looks like as delivered. And as we go through this recording, I'll pause and just talk through some of the important points. So this is the project general or project activity general component. And what you see here is a lot of attributes at the top, some start dates and some finish or end dates here. Now in this use case that we're going to look at, the M. Young user ID is really responsible for creating the project originally and inputting start date information, but should not be able to enter finish date or end date type information. In addition, in this organization, there's a lot of common changes that need to happen across the user base. So in this example, the quality tab should be hidden for all users. We'd like to make the activity type a required field. The system source we're going to hide. The activity owner, we actually call that a task manager in this organization. So these are the types of changes that we'd like to make through PFC. So what we're going to show here is how you would do this really most efficiently by using more than one sequence within Page and Field Configurator. So what we're doing now is opening up another window, and I want to show you something here that you probably haven't seen yet. We've got a new home page that we're delivering called the Configuration Specialist, and there's a lot of tools and capabilities that you see here for a lot of the configuration tools that we've supplied over the years. We're going to focus on this one tile for the Page and Field Configurator. Just know that this has been released to you in financials in the latest image and coming out also in HCM. With the Page and Field Configurator, again, it's component based, so we've gone in and select the component. And in this recording, I've gone ahead and made it active so you could see the effect of the change. And a couple of things to key in on here. First thing is there's 3 sequences. So again, we've always allowed for multiple sequences. Now I'll show you a way of having more than one sequence evaluated and actually displayed, and the impact of those sequences displayed to the end user. So the first sequence is really targeted towards M. Young, and what I've gone ahead and done is made all these finish or end date fields disabled for entry. That's part of the use case. I have not selected the apply additively. We'll come back and talk about that in a lot more detail. The next sequence number 2, is associated with CTran. This is the next user ID. And CTran is a user who's similar, except that instead of updating the start dates, they're responsible for, or she's responsible for updating the end dates. So with this, I've gone ahead and added all the start dates and made all of these disabled for entry or read only. The third sequence is the one that has the common changes. So this set of changes applies to really all users and without any criteria. So you can see here the activity type, we've made it required. The activity owner field, we've changed the label to task manager. We've also made it required, and we've hidden the system source field. Also at the bottom of the PFC configuration, you can see we've hidden the project quality tab, or set the visibility to no. And we have marked this as apply additively. Again, we'll talk about that more here in a moment, but what that means is that this is going to be applied in addition to the other configuration sequences. The user list, this is the second tab at the top, and this can be configured at the header level or at the sequence level as well, and that's always been the case. In this particular example, sequence 1, we have targeted this to a particular user, the M. Young user ID, and sequence 2 is targeted to CTran. Typically, you wouldn't see users here. These would be more roles. We've got various options here now. We've got some ability to have multiple roles and to exclude particular roles or users from configuration as well. That was also an enhancement done about a year ago. The last step to creating these configurations is to actually create the event mapping, which happens through the Apply Configuration push button. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the component that we started with, and we're still logged in as M. Young. We should refresh the page here. And as we do so, we'll see those changes take effect. Okay, so the common changes at the top of the page, you see these now. We've hidden the field, we've changed the label to task manager, we've hidden the quality tab. So remember, that happened through sequence number 3. In addition, we have the finish date or the end date fields here. These are also made disabled for entry. So that actually happened through sequence number 1. So you see, this is a good example of how we can apply more than one sequence to what the user sees and into the page behavior displayed to the end user. Okay, sorry for the delay here. Just a moment as this plays through. The next thing we're going to see is CTran. So we'll log out of here, and as when we log in as CTran, this is the user who should have the start dates as read only. And okay, here we go. All right. Okay, so CTran, you see the common changes at the top. The same label change was made. The required field, we've hid the system source, we've hidden the quality tab, and the start date fields now are read only. So this is a good example of how we can apply multiple sequences to what the user sees, and that's done through the additive selection. And we're going to show that modal window a little bit more here in a moment. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is actually go back into Page and Field Configurator and talk through some of the other features that have come out or functionality that's come out in this tool over the last year or so. So project activity, we've got our 3 sequences. In this example, we'll go down and we'll add another sequence just to demo some of the other and talk to some of the other features that have come out. Okay, when we do our field selection, it used to be pretty clunky in selecting fields. It was really one at a time. Now we've added a multi-select capability. So typically what customers have told us is that we've got multiple things to do on this page. We need to hide multiple fields or change the label for multiple fields. So we need to be able to select multiple fields at one time. So that's now available to you. The same thing is available on the criteria. The other thing to show here is the copy capability. You've always had that. Not a lot of folks have really commented on it, but what it does is allow you to take all the fields from one sequence and copy them into one of the other sequences, helping you create these sequences a little bit more efficiently. The next thing that we have is the modal windows. So these are called secondary pages. So now the fields on your modal windows or your secondary pages can also be configured within PFC. That change was made late last year as well. So in this case, we're adding a few fields from one of the AM data tables and adding that to this particular sequence. And then this status field was added at the sequence level. So we've always had a status field at the header level for active, inactive. At the sequence level, we now can inactivate these two. So as time goes on and more sequences are added or configurations are added, and some of them start to age out or not be applicable, you can inactivate those specific sequences, and then they'll no longer fire for the end user. Okay. All right. Sequence processing. So a couple of minutes here on what this is. This new modal window called review sequence processing. So what this does is it gives you a quick and summarized view of all the sequences and what they're supposed to be doing. So it's showing your description of what you've labeled the sequence to do, its status, and then whether or not it's going to be applied additively. So why do we have this additive selection? The one reason is that we need to be able to apply masking configurations in addition to the standard configuration. So that's one reason to have the additive selection, and you'll see that on the masking demo here in a moment. The other reason is that we have some components with a lot of sequences, okay? And really to understand the additive selection, you need to know how the system actually works. So when the component is open, the criteria, it will start evaluating sequence number 1, and if the criteria is met, then that is included in what the user sees. And then what the system will do is actually go down and then move to evaluating just the additive selections. Okay, so let's say I have 50, 60, 70, 80 unique combinations, unique criteria in each one of these sequences, meaning I'll never meet the criteria for multiple sequences. Well, it would be kind of a waste if the system had to go down and evaluate every sequence every time. So what you can do is, if all of these sequences are mutually exclusive, you could effectively not check the apply additively box. The system would go down and find the sequence that matches for criteria, and then quickly move to evaluating the additive selections. So the additive ones are typically at the end. And what the additive really means is that sequence will always be evaluated. The criteria still has to be met for it to be displayed to the user, but it will always at least be evaluated. So if you're not understanding this and you have a small number of sequences, there's no harm in just selecting the apply additively all the time. I'd also encourage you to look at the People Books right up on here, and it will show you the order in which these sequences are evaluated and how this actually works. But basically, the additive selection means that the sequence, the criteria for the sequence, will always be evaluated, and if met, will be applied and shown online. So in this case, when we were logged in as M. Young, the PFC saw sequence number 1. It met the criteria, evaluated it, we met the criteria, and then we moved to the common changes, and that was what was displayed. When we were logged into CTRAN, it started as M. Young, no criteria was met. It went down to sequence number 2, found that the criteria was met, and then moved to evaluating the common changes. So if you think about that in the context of a component that has maybe close to 100 sequences, you could save a lot of time by only evaluating the common changes really at the very end, along with the unique sequences above that. And I'm
Joe,
sure we'll get some.
Joe, just a quick time check,
Yeah.
about 20 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Let's show a little bit on the masking, Kelly, and then we'll just jump into the roadmap and then some Q&A. How about that?
Sounds great.
Okay. Okay. So one of the other things that PFC was really that we enhanced the PFC to do data masking, and this is really the online displays to users. And typically, when we think about masking, we think about HCM. We're actually going to show a use case here in financials because we have a lot of confidential information in financials too. We've got credit card information, bank account information, and what we're going to show here is we actually have some price information. So we'll look at this page within supply chain where we have some bid prices that should not be shown to the end user. So they need to be masked. So this is what the page looks like before any masking configuration. We see these bidders labeled across the top, and then we have our total bid amount and total bid cost. We want to go ahead and mask this information using Page and Field Configurator. All right, so PFC, we've added a configuration type called masking. So we'll open up the PFC window here, and the masking configuration types within PFC, that's really all they do. We don't hide any labels with in the masking configurations. We don't change any labels. We don't hide any fields. All that we do in the masking configurations is mask data. That's it. And one of the requirements was really to break this out from the traditional uses of PFC. So configuration type masking. You'll see the grid here with all the selections that we typically have. There's only one mask field. So what we've done in this example is I've found all the bid cost and the bid amount fields, selected to mask the field, and then applied the configuration as you would normally expect. The mask profile, we deliver these. We've got the full, meaning all of the values are masked. We also have an option to display the trailing 4 characters or 8 characters. You can define that. So something like you might see on a credit card typically, or some other account number. You can also define what the masking character ought to be, whether or not you want to retain the separators. If it's a date field, you can determine if it's to mask the day, the month, the year, or a combination of the 3 or all 3. And you see the apply additively here is selected as well, because we want this applied and evaluated after or in addition to the standard configurations for this component. We come back into this page, and now we see the bid amount and the bid cost fields are masked. We're going to do a little bit more on masking tomorrow in one of the data privacy sessions too, in the afternoon, if you'd like to attend that.
Hey Joe,
Okay.
we
Yes.
have quite a few, a handful of more roadmap type of questions, but there was a question on which image is the configuration homepage in FMS.
I think it just came out in 37. 37 just released.
Thank you, Joe. You ready for the poll?
Yep. Yeah, we can do the poll, or do you want to take more questions too?
The rest of the questions are more roadmap related, okay, as I read through them. So I think it's important to get through the roadmap, and then we can go through those.
Okay. Why don't we, if we could, let's go ahead and release this next question. So if from what you've seen or what you've seen prior to today or earlier to today, are you considering using the tool for data masking? So you're already using it, you plan to use it, or hope to use it, or you're not planning to use it, or you're just unsure?
The answers are starting to come in, Joe.
Okay.
if you want to keep moving.
All right. We have another polling question here too, Kelly.
All right, then I will end quickly this poll. 10% are already using, 70% plan to use, 2.5% not planning to use, and 17% unsure.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. That's good.
And I will.
So the next polling question, this is the last one for the day. How typically, and we know that each configuration could be different and the components are different, but just typically, how many configuration sequences do you typically have within a component? So is it always one? Everything fits within one sequence, 2 to 10, closer to 25, or are you really maxed out? And it's actually maxed out at 99 is what the max number is right now. Or if you're not sure, that's another response as well.
So Joe, by far the responses for this particular poll is 6% are one. By far the largest are 2 to 10, which is at 53%, closer to 25, 1%, closer to 100, 1%, and 37% unsure.
Okay. So I think that's what we would expect. Most people need more than one. Typically don't need a lot more than 10. Starts to get fairly cumbersome to work through that. So I think that's about what we would expect. Thanks, Kelly. Okay, as far as mentioned before, we continue to invest in this product. We get a lot of requests for enhancements. I'm sure some of those have come through the Q&A that we'll go through in a moment. This is a pretty good list of everything that's come out here over the last couple of years. We've talked about all this today. We still get some questions whether or not this is available on fluid components. Yes, it is. That was one of the earlier enhancements. You also see here the exact image numbers for the latest data masking functionality that was released earlier this year. Okay, let's talk about the roadmap next. I'll quickly walk through these, Kelly, and then we can go through the Q&A. Okay, obviously we can't promise an image or when exactly we would release these, but just know that we are reviewing them and working on some of these right now as well. The first two really these two go hand in hand really. As the PFC tool continues to get more complex, we want to be mindful of the functional administrator and their needs, because we don't want to make this just a technical tool. That would really not be a good thing. So we're looking at some options to really streamline and really simplify the field selection process. Some of these components could have 200, 300, 400 fields in them. And when you go to those prompts, it can be difficult to find the field you're looking for. So we're looking at ways to simplify that process for the PFC administrator. And as part of that, we can also get the technical staff involved to provide some oversight. It doesn't mean that they would be responsible for maintaining PFC. As I mentioned before, we don't want that. But we can get them involved in the process for identifying which fields should be used within PFC. So more to come on that, but we see this as a really good opportunity to simplify the process for the functional administrators, and again provide some bit of oversight by the technical staff. The goal again would be for the PFC administrator to really maintain and change that functionality as needed, maintain criteria, maintain the user criteria, but the technical staff would have some capabilities to kind of streamline that process. So it should have some benefit for both groups. The third item here is really extending the way or when PFC would fire. Right now, as we've shown you, the Page and Field Configurator fires when we open up the component. It evaluates the criteria, and what you see is what you get there. We're also looking at extending this out so that as the end user changes a field on the page, that the PFC could also fire changes on the page at that same time. So if you think about that component we were looking at earlier, let's say activity type, which was at the top of the page, was used as criteria. If the customer went in and changed the activity type, that could be used to display certain fields or hide other fields or make fields read only. So really looking to create those field change events through Page and Field Configurator, extending the number of sequences above 99. Number 6 and number 7, these relate to system variables. So the system variables are things like the user login and the system date, and defaulting those values to fields. Right now we have some defaulting capability, but the default has to be entered directly into the PFC tool. We would actually like to default that from as a variable based upon who's logged in. And then on top of that, using a system variable such as the system date as criteria too. So we've had a request also to display a configuration to the user based upon, let's say it's January 1st we've hit January 1st on the calendar. So based on a system date. And then some additional extension of criteria for or capabilities in parentheses, and then hiding charts in Fluid as well. Okay, Kelly, what do we have for Q&A?
All right, Joe. We have a few questions, and I'm just going to go through them in reverse order. The first one is, one of the challenges around Page and Field Configurator is that the field property lists in the field names, but not the record name. In HCM, you might find a field like employee on dozens of records in the same component. And it goes on a little bit more on that. And I think, we've kind of, the original thought of the tool was to be very simple for the power user to do, and maybe the technical users, or they might not really know the field, the record names, where technical people certainly do know the technical or the field, the record names. So we've kind of kept it to, where you could see it on the page, but I know that one of the things that Joe had talked about is we're expanding the tool to loop in the technical user to be able to do, a few things that might help with that.
Right.
Joe, anything? Please add.
Just to second that, that really was what's meant by these first two bullets here, is really simplifying that process in selecting the field. So applying some more, we call some advanced filters, and kind of identifying those fields up front, and then having them available to the functional administrator throughout the configuration process. So it should be simpler to find fields for the functional administrator. That's the goal.
And I'm just going to click dismiss questions. I'm not being a jerk. It's just that it'll go away and I'll be able to work down the list. Joe, is there any effective date for any of these pages that have been configured in Page and Field Configurator?
No, they are not effective date based. No, we have the active inactive flag at the top. That would be your one way of putting something into place on a certain period of time, but they are not effective dated.
And then a follow-up additional question, is there a way to back these up or migrate the updates? And we do have an ADS, application data set, that is delivered so that you can go ahead and build these all in a test environment and then move them into production. So that would be the answer to that. Joe, are there any plans to add PFC functionality to search pages?
Great question. So we are looking at that. I don't have it listed on the roadmap, but that is something we're looking at, particularly to keep the labels in sync. We're also working with some other tools that are looking at changes on the search pages as well. So we need to see how we might integrate with those. But yes, we are looking at that.
There was a question about, are there any other features added over the last year? Joe quickly went through some of the features that would be done, and then there was a caveat of, for PeopleTools 858 only, I'm not sure. I would certainly recommend that using the latest version of tools. Tools continues to enhance event mapping, which is what Page and Field Configurator heavily relies upon. So getting to the latest version of tools is always best.
Yeah, this is a good list of the features of the functionality that's come out over the last year. The big piece was the masking and then applying these configurations additively. That was released in financials and HCM. Well, you can see the image numbers here. So that was springtime, I guess, is what it was. On the tool side, to use masking, you do need 85711. So that's a pretty recent release.
Okay, continuing on in questions, what happens to the underlining page if it's updated in PUM or App Designer? Does PFC changes have to be redone? And the answer to that is no. That's the whole beauty of Page and Field Configurator. It is a separate area where all of this is configured, and it is completely independent of any change that happens in the page. So you won't lose anything if the apps teams make changes to the underlying page. Question, Page and Field Configurator overrides existing event map configurations for the same component. That was true a while ago. It should not be true now. If that is the case, then please log a bug. There was a time that you could only have one sequence. Available Tools has enhanced that capability so you can have multiple sequences in the event mapping. So we should be good on that. And if it's not working, please log a bug. Any future enhancement option for masking to have additional security tiers to enable PFC at the row level? For example, I want to mask compensation data on job data component for users in HR inquiry role. However, employees in the contractor role, users in HR inquiry role can access the mask job data. I'm sure I butchered that. I'm thinking that this is along the lines of maybe the level 1 stuff. Joe, do you want to try tackling that?
It could be. So we are looking at extending the tool to use criteria for lower level fields. So right now, the fields that are available to you as criteria are what we call the level 0 fields. So we're looking at extending that to the fields at level 1 as well, and that may help in that example.
Okay, there was another question on how is the configuration migrated. That's migrated with the application dataset ADS. Check that out. That's best practice. Use it, and it should work fine for you. Is there a way to categorize fields? For example, could we hide all monetary values? I assume that's all at one time.
I didn't catch that one, Kelly. Can you read that one again?
Yeah. Is there a way to categorize fields? For example, could you put all of the monetary values together and then maybe hide them all I'm assuming hide them all at one time. And the answer to that is we don't have that now. It's a great idea, great suggestion. Certainly could be something, and I would highly recommend you guys use Idea Space to add some of these ideas and then get folks together to vote on them. But currently, Page and Field Configurator is a one field at a time mapping. Joe, you handle secondary pages. How about subpages?
Some subpages, I believe, will work with PFC if that information is available when we load. But it's not all subpages. So I think, like for example, I don't think the drop zones will work with PFC, but I think there are some other subpage types that will work.
Is the data migration workbench still required to migrate Page and Field Configurator? If this is, we require application data set, and I'm blanking on the tool that drives that, but that is how we do it. That's what's required. Joe, you have anything to add on that?
No.
Okay. We recently modified the label to one of our fields. However, we noticed an error message related to this field does not reflect the new label. Is it possible to have message catalog updated automatically to reflect the modified label?
That's I haven't heard that request before.
Yeah,
that's a new one.
I was going to say
yeah.
exactly the same thing. I hadn't heard the message catalog, entry. You can, in Page and Field Configurator, you can put in a new label, and depending upon the sequence of order, as Joe explained, we typically do this as you're building the component or switching from page. And if people code fires after the fact, it could override things. We know that happens, but I haven't heard the message catalog. It's very, very interesting. Once again, idea space, that would be a fantastic place for this. Is there a report that combines application page security with the page security in this tool? I'm thinking of an admin who is asked who can see page X. Will they need to look at this tool under application security?
I wonder if the question deals with how you get to PFC. Is that what the is it a question on how you would actually navigate to the Page and Field Configurator, or is it looking at the user list security? I'm not sure.
I'm assuming that is there a report that kind of has security, that who can see things, especially since you can add that in PeopleSoft security, but you can also add additional criteria for users. And is there a report out of the box that combines the two? The answer is no, not that I'm aware of. And the Page and Field Configurator tool, we've been expanding lots of functionality, but there's certain areas that we could enhance more, and having some of this life cycle reporting and things like that certainly is an area that we could do more in. Joe, anything to add on that?
No, I agree with you. We don't deliver any reports in this area. It is something that we could look at and weigh against other priorities. Yeah.
There was a question, does it have issues if a field is removed from a component? We have a validate configuration button that's on Page and Field Configurator, and that button is there for that exact purpose, to go through and make sure that nothing has changed. We try to be really careful from the app side that we don't ever remove fields, especially from records, but it can happen, and so that is the use of that push button. Joe, anything to add on that?
No, I think you hit it.
There's one, PFC did not come over when applying Pump 35. We had to reapply the TA approvals. Patty, I don't have an answer. This is Page and Field Configurator is delivered as part of its enterprise components. And so it goes through all of the pillars. Maybe you could do a follow-up to a little bit more detail. Can you hide chart fields on the classic pages? Affiliate field, for example. We use this for inter-unit transactions, but users are manually populating this field in AP and expenses.
Yeah, I've looked at that before. I think it depends on how that affiliate is populated. I mean, typically you can hide a field in a grid, but I know the chart fields they seem to work a little differently. I've not gotten into the detail on that, but typically you can hide chart fields. Or you can hide columns in a grid, but it seems like the chart fields work a little differently. we probably could look at that in a little bit more detail.
There was a question, have sys audit edits been added for this tool? No, we haven't changed any of the sys audit edits. Jim, if there's something that is breaking or something that we should have in sys audits, I would love to hear about that. So, please let us know. I mean, yeah. So, Joe, anything to add there?
No.
Okay. We have a question. Do you consider ADS an analyst tool or developer's tool? And I'm going to start off with this one, Joe, and then you can answer it. I don't think you guys really should care what I think about what the tool is. It's up to your organization to determine what is the most appropriate tool. ADS does allow you to move data, and it can have some criteria in that. But yeah, I would think that this is probably more of an organizational thing. I attempted to make a joke there, and
yeah,
probably was bad. But Joe saved the day.
I mean, I would think it's probably more run out of the IT shop. I think it's more technical to some degree. Certainly would be somebody with very strong skills.
Okay, and that is the last question that I had in the Q&A. So
okay, all right. Thank you, everybody.
Anything else, Joe?
No, I think we're done. Top of the hour. Thanks, everybody. A lot of good questions today. Sorry we're for delayed getting started. If there's anything more, we can also make ourselves available through the chat as well. Any other questions on PFC? Thank you, and have a good rest of the conference.
And folks, we love that so many customers are using this tool. I think it's a fantastic tool. Keep using it. Keep using suggestions for idea space so that we can continue to enhance it and make it better for you. Thanks for using it. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.